Hey, welcome to the newest episode of the Articulate Ox podcast. I am your host, Soma79. Thank you so much for joining me. My guest today is artist Daarian Woroniak. Daarian is from Saskatchewan, Canada, and he makes these drippy, trippy pop culture pieces that you got to kind of see to believe. And don't worry, I'm going to show him through the episodes. You can check him out. He's learning now how to be a tattoo artist. I think this dude can do anything. He's supporting himself full time through his art. So we get the Articulate Ox Gold Star for that because that's a tricky thing to do, and he pulled it off. So congratulations on that, Daarian. I absolutely love this guy's work. It's so familiar yet new at the same time, and it's so crisp, and it's just, we talk about his attention to detail on this and in this episode, and I must tip my cap to you, Daarian, because he's a real craftsman of what he does, and I envy that. And maybe it'll inspire me to try a little harder to get some of the exact smoothness that this dude can do. But check out his work. His commission list, I think, is pretty long, so it's probably not open now. But I'm recording this a few months before it'll be released, so who knows? Maybe it will be. Just don't cut me in line. So thank you so much. Check out his Instagram page and all that good stuff, which will be under his name during the episode and in the show notes. Thank you. Peace. Welcome to the newest episode of the Articulate Ox podcast, which started with a technical difficulty that you did not see. My guest today is artist Daarian Woroniak. I got that right?
You did.
All right, sweet. Now, I've been following Daarian for a long time on Instagram. I feel like I'm yelling. His art is so freaking dope, and we're going to talk about it. So what's going on today, Daarian?
Nothing. Fridays, I go and I work at a weed shop with my buddy on the weekends.
Sweet.
Just for Friday, Saturday, so I don't really have anything to do during the day. I kind of take it off.
That's very nice. What's the weed situation like up there in Saskatchewan?
I mean, legal weed's legal weed. I've always kind of been a big fan of the black market and still am. But it's fun selling weed to people. You see like the whole spectrum of people, that's for sure. Whether it's 80-year-old ladies coming in for CBD or CBN to sleep, or just like your burnouts, and then like homeless people. It's just everyone, man. It's never a dull moment.
Yeah. It's funny too about the black market that I found is that the black market now, like a lot of it has like real packaging. Like it's like it looks like something that, I mean, I'm sure it's made by some of the same people and just like whatever. I'm not going to get into the get indicted hotline over here, but like it's the black market stepped it up, and it's I don't know, man. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive.
For sure. And it's like the black market's so flooded and oversaturated with overstock now from the legal market.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like now there's like $60 ounces everywhere, which was unheard of like 5 years ago.
The other thing too that I found, that I just had this, I went to a dispensary this earlier today at the end of my street, and I was like, there's no other store where I get more sorts of errors on pricing. Like I asked for one thing that was like twice the strength of what they gave me, and then I realized after that, like, even though they showed me the package, that they didn't actually have what I needed, so they just gave me double of it for free. Like, here, go right ahead. I'm just like, this is wonderful. What? Yeah, so I ended up walking out with like the deal of the century when I started adding up like the milligrams and stuff. So I sound like Joe the Pot head over here, but whatever. It's actually
preaching to the choir. I've been like kind of trying to take a break and only smoke at night right now, just because I overdo it.
Yeah, I try to only do like edibles now, and I start maybe like in the evening, and I kind of like the giggly feeling it gives me. Unlike like the smoking doesn't really give me that anymore. So.
Oh yeah.
But all right, as much as I'm sure both of our art is weed inspired to some degree, I'm gonna put some pictures of your stuff, flash it up on the screen during the interview, and people can get a look at it. So just I could give a quick description of what you do, but it's probably better that you probably do it yourself. But why don't you take it from here?
It's probably better that you do it. I'm not good at describing it. I'm just I just do drippy shit.
I'll go from my perspective. You can fill in the blank. So. You sort of take pop culture characters that we've all seen. There's one behind me, actually. I put up one of your pictures on my screen, though it's a little tough to see. This is my man Scrooge McDuck, I guess, or some version of Scrooge McDuck. And you just sort of add a drippy psychedelic quality to it and just kind of flip it up, just kind of parody it, I would say is the word.
Yep.
And just add this whole trippy appeal to it. But what you do that really impresses me is that you don't lose any of the crispness of
Yeah.
the original material. And we're, when you talk about these classic cartoon characters, they're very crisp. The littlest little bit of like Millhouse's nose being the wrong size kind of throws you in a
Mhm.
little bit of cognitive dissonance. And you're
Yeah.
doing that with the psychedelic stuff, but you're still managing to keep the form. And that's, I think, to me, what really ties it all together. So yammer
Cool.
on about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and so like what I do is I draw my original reference like as exact as I can and modify after the fact, and that's kind of how I keep the form. So I'm not really like adding drips kind of as I'm drawing. I make sure the original reference is like fucking perfect first, and then I can start kind of adding the modifications and seeing where things should lie and other things.
That's cool. So do you draw by hand first, or do you do this on like a tablet?
iPad, yeah, generally iPad. Right now I'm drawing a lot on paper because just the traditional tattoo stuff just feels better on paper, and I missed it.
Yeah.
Just
It's
drew on
it is
my iPad for
funny.
so.
Yeah, I flip back and forth between that. And it's like, do you wear one of these like little like two-finger gloves when you're drawing on an iPad?
No, I have before. I just lose shit like that like constantly. So
I this thing's been lost a
I
bunch of
have
times.
I use a paper like screen, and I also turn the a lot of the gesture st- gesture gesture shit off on
Yeah.
like Procreate, so like my hand doesn't like make a paint stroke and stuff like that.
Oh shit. I should look at
So
that.
like yeah, you can actually turn it so like you can't like the only thing that will paint a paint stroke is the pencil.
Oh, cool.
And so like you can still move it around with your hands and stuff, but you can never like actually like do a brush stroke with your hand.
It's funny. I use one of the like the Wacom tablets, this thing back here, and you draw on the screen. They're like the pen has 90 zillion types of sensitivity. I'm like, I probably use three. I probably should start Googling this shit because there's
Yeah,
a
I'm
never
pretty
ending of
basic
what
with
you
that
can
stuff.
learn. That's awesome.
Yeah,
And
I'm pretty.
like custom brushes, I gotta start getting into that.
Yeah, I know that's all kind of over my head. I've tried a little bit, but I stick my guns generally.
Yeah. That's the cool thing even about stuff like Photoshop is you can make a living using like 5% of what Photoshop has to offer.
Yeah,
It's pretty
yeah,
crazy. Not that I'm
yeah.
trying
It's
to
like I'm
add to them,
designing
but
cartoons with hard shades. It's pretty. I only really need 1 to 3 brushes.
yeah, that's very true. Yeah. So what really got you into that? Like, actually, you know what? I want to go back to one more second. This is the question I was fumbling for. This is something I've been struggling with. So I'm gonna take a second to get a lesson here. When you're doing these curved lines, like the perfect curve of like the eyes and stuff like that, are you like drawing that by hand on the whatever surface, or are you using like a pen tool where you're bending an arch?
um, a little bit of both. I'm pretty old school where I like to like if I'm on the tablet, I'll draw that circle or arch like probably 4 to 7 times before I'm happy with it. And
That makes you feel better.
yeah, so I mean sometimes I use the snap, but sometimes it just doesn't have the exact shape I want, even modifying the arch. So I just try to draw it
Yeah.
first in one swipe as much as I can.
Trying to describe to like somebody who isn't an artist how like a curved line can have personality is like kind of a strange thing, but there's something to that where you're like, oh, that line of like the duck bill doesn't quite have the personality or emote the way that you want it to, and it's like the littlest difference makes the biggest impact for people who
It
don't
is
even
for
know it.
sure, yeah. Especially with like iconic characters, like they're set in people's brains, so they have to be like damn near perfect.
Yeah, yeah. So what
Yeah,
got you
because
into
otherwise it'll be like that doesn't look right. It's like if it's like drawing someone's face that you really know or your own face. You're like that doesn't look right.
right? Or when you see a really
So,
ganky tattoo that the person that looks like a Tijuana bootleg of like Bart Simpson or something,
yeah,
like you're like,
yeah,
eek,
yeah,
that's rough.
yeah. You can just tell because it's especially like characters like The Simpsons are so iconic. Everyone knows them. It's burned into our brains.
Yep, yep. So
Yeah.
what are your like artistic roots? Where like when did you start making art in your life and what was your original medium?
Um, Started making art. My dad's always been a very artistic dude, so he kind of we always drew together when I was young, and I was always a big doodler in elementary school and making like flip comics out of sticky notes and shit like
Me
that.
too. Yeah.
But like the first real artistic venture I took was painting Warhammer, I think. The first thing that actually like really like owned me in and like made me hyper focus on it. And I
Now, are
would just
those like
get
little
lost.
figures?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
follow somebody who I was having. I wasn't familiar with that, but I had a random conversation with him about it because it looks so cool.
Yeah. it's a crazy detailed art form, that's for sure, because they're so
Yeah,
small and there's so many little details to do. And that kind of got me, I think, a bit of an eye for detail and precision,
yeah,
and just doing that. And then also like learning how to build layers and be patient.
yes, that's a big part of it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What percentage of of things that you start do you usually finish? Because I think that that's something that's a misconception I have. I mean, some artists finish everything, but I find a
Yeah.
lot of people get frustrated that everything isn't always up to the quality of their highest work. I'd say a third of the things that I start and get maybe like at least a tenth of the way done, I abandon just because I'm like, this isn't
Oh
working
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Do you
like
like
honestly probably 75, 80%.
that you hold on to or that you abandon?
No, that I finish.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, so you're doing
Yeah, I
pretty
got a pretty
well.
high completion rate because like most of my work, like for the last few years, has been commission work. So
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit because you're living that dream of doing the art that you want to do and getting paid for it and having
yeah,
a decent commission list. So you are one of the you're one of the ones that broke on through to the other side. So congratulations about that. That's awesome,
yeah.
man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was definitely a journey, and because I was a drywall finisher for 7, 8 years,
Mhm.
and kind of painting and drawing at night. And then eventually, I was just like, I don't want to drywall anymore.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I can just commit and hit it hard. And I started, and it's still a struggle, man. Like, some months are, I don't know if I'm going to make rent, so I got to do something to do it
Yeah.
and just kind of get that hustle motivation going. But I've been pretty fortunate with a really good group of collectors and supporters,
That's
which has been
awesome.
huge. And a lot of that started in the cannabis industry, in the black market cannabis industry.
Oh, really? Can you tell
Yeah.
some of that story?
Yeah, like just met a few like really really awesome people who love my shit and were kind of willing to promote it and pay me like good like lots of money for bigger pieces and pump my prices up. So that really helped. Um and then you got a lot of exposure for them because they obviously were telling me or telling all their friends and everything, and yeah, kind of just like sold to some higher level wholesalers and whatnot like that, and then so everyone they sell to kind of inevitably wants what they have,
Yeah.
and it kind of just creates this big network. It's been pretty cool.
Yeah. How do
And
you
then branched
navigate?
out,
Oh, go for it. Keep going.
and then branched out into like a few other industries, like the rave community and stuff like that. Kind of got me in there as well,
Yeah.
and yeah,
That was my scene back in the day.
yeah, hell
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, how do you so when you deal how do you sort of handle pricing with something like that? So in terms of like when you're at whatever level you're at trying to sell it when you don't really have those connections and then they start moving along, do you sort of like how do you decide how to price it as you're getting that greater exposure? Is it
Um, I've always been a solid believer of start at one and work your way up. So like I've always done that. It's been a slow incline since I started. And the more supply and demand, like the more people who want something, like you increase your prices.
yep, yep,
Yeah. And so it's pretty basic model that way is like, okay, I'm starting to get more attention, more requests, more of this commission list long. I can be like, oh, my commission list is 6 months, and that kind of creates, some sort of an appeal.
yeah, yeah,
So basically just like that. And then with people being like, this is some serious work, like you should charge more for like those collectors that I had. And I
yeah.
was like, well, okay, well, if you're willing to pay more, like, let's
I know
go.
that's always a good sign when the people that are spending the money are willing to telling you that you should be charging more. You're like, okay, that's they
Yeah.
actually know because they're the ones that have their wallets out. So that's
Yeah,
awesome.
for sure. And, I have, there's a sea of people who also tell you your shit's too expensive. And it's just like, well, then don't buy it.
Yeah, it's like whatever. It's because it takes. There's that famous story about the person who saw Picasso in like a cafe and asked him to draw like something on a napkin and then charge whatever he thought it was worth. And he drew like a
Yeah.
little thing and was like, yeah, it's like 5 grand. She's like, what? It took you no time. He's like, yeah, but that's like all
Yeah.
the years it took me to get here and be me. It's like a lot of people don't appreciate that.
Yeah.
So so do you remember the first piece that you sold or the first feeling you got that the first realization you had that this is that you're making something that people would want to buy?
Um, there was a few when I used to do graffiti and sell kind of shitty canvases then, but I think it really started, I went to rehab in 2013. And then when I was in there, I kind of started getting some attention from people, and then they wanted to
When you were
start.
in rehab?
Yeah.
From people in the rehab or people outside of the rehab?
Yeah, in and around, yeah. In and
Okay.
around the rehab, kind of started wanting pieces. So I'd do pieces for like 30 to 80 bucks.
That's usually not when people launch a career. That's
Yeah.
that's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of built a small group of collectors in there, and then but I was still like, it wasn't like full time. It was just making like nothing off of it almost, but I was still loving it and doing drywall.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's
So that kind of was like, oh man, there's quite a few people who want paintings. This is cool.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, how did you arrive at the style that you're doing now? I mean, did it start with a more? I'm guessing you're sort of like me, where I grew up drawing Garfield on everything. That was my character, and then I
Yeah.
always wanted to be a cartoonist. I was obsessed with how cartoons worked, and it blew my
Yeah.
mind. They had to draw that many pictures. Like, how did you get from wherever you started there and your love of it to the versions of you're doing now?
Trying to think of what like really was the first piece that clicked. Like I started doing cartoons, and I remember I did like a Rick and Morty piece or something, and then that like got a lot more attention than I was used to. And I was like, oh, people really love like this
Yeah,
pop art shit, right? And things that are nostalgic and things that like people can relate with. And then
yeah.
so I just kind of started drawing more and more cartoons. And when did I make them drippy? I started with hollowing out the eyes. So like just no iris, no pupil, hollow eyes. And that's kind of like, okay, this has got a creepier vibe to it. I like
Yeah.
it. And then started kind of making modifications like that. And I think drips kind of just came naturally with that progression.
So I, I'm trying to picture. I'm looking at one of your pieces now on the screen. It's the one. It was the one where you're sitting in front of it with the yellow hoodie from an article, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, see, yeah. And I'm trying to get a gauge of what that's really made out. I mean, I'm doing a really good job. I'll probably put it on the screen. But what are you doing your art on? It seems like some sort of a board, or because a lot of
Yeah.
them are they're die cut, so they're cut to the frame of the character.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do that with jigsaw and scroll saw. And it's MDF. So just
MDF.
like MDF, yeah. So like particle board, it's just like
Oh,
what
okay.
like most cabinets and desks and shit are made out of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's that? So did the drywalling help you learn how to cut so accurately? Because it's one thing to draw really accurately, but to cut seems like an entirely different skill.
No, drywall didn't do any of that because I was a mutter and taper, so
And you're
I
probably
didn't
not
really.
doing a lot of like drywall in the shape of like Millhouse's head either. So, you know.
No, honestly, I just taught myself. Like I was just like buy a jigsaw, make it happen.
So this is like an analog saw, right? It's not like even an
Oh
electric
yeah.
saw. Holy
No, no,
sh!
it's analog. I mean, it's electric. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a jigsaw. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know saws, but like that's
Oh yeah, it's probably like just like one of the like handheld ones with a little blade on it that you kind of run like.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then for the
What
really smaller stuff, I use a scroll saw, which is just like a mini bandsaw. Basically, it's like got a set blade and you push through.
yeah. I mean, I'm assuming I'm guessing you probably started with, 2D, right? Like just like digital or drawings. And then what was it that made you start going towards the bigger piece of actually making it on the wood and how'd you make that jump?
I don't know when was the first one I did. I just really liked. I liked. I think I saw a piece somewhere. I'm not sure which one, but I really liked the way it looked on a wall as like cut to form.
Yeah.
You get different shadows, especially if you got a little spacer piece on the back for mounting, and you can kind of get a drop shadow everywhere. And I just loved that, and it just how it just looks like a big sticker on the wall almost. And
Yeah, and it
I
sticks
just
out.
love that.
Yeah. And I think once I first started following you, I hit you up and I asked you about how you make your colors so crisp. But this is like along with getting my curves really, I'm more of an approximate artist than like the whatever, the polished stuff. But
Yeah.
like I always struggled with getting my paints that crisp. And what is your secret, man?
Layers.
Is that what it
Yeah,
is?
layers. Yeah, so layers and undercoats. So, I mean, if you're doing a really nice yellow or orange, like they don't cover great, even if you have high quality paints. Like I use Goldens, and like still, even but my best coverage, I still got to do 3 layers generally.
Wow.
Yeah, so 3 solid layers at least of each color. A good undercoat. So before our yellow or orange, like starch white. Make sure it is an absolute perfect white. And then you're gonna get less bleed. You're not gonna get any bleed through, and it's just gonna build the yellow or the orange. And then reds coat like you undercoat gray first.
Oh, really?
And that
Why is
just lets
that?
it cover. Just because red covers for shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, red. If you don't undercoat gray, like you're looking at 5, 6 coats. So
Yeah. And this is all the type of knowledge too that I would, as somebody who's done a lot of painting in my day, you obviously you have a better handle of it than I do, but you run into this stuff a lot, and it's very frustrating that you're like, why is this paint not covering this color? When I have a
yeah,
few paintings where I can see pencil lines behind the paint, and I'm like,
yeah,
how is that possible? Like,
yeah. No, yeah, and that shit drives me insane. Like I cannot have that. It's just
yeah.
like an OCD thing, I guess. But and
How do
that's
you
why like
so
all pencil lines
so how do you
just
fix that
put up
actually? Are you erasing them first, or just enough paint will eventually cover it?
enough paint will eventually cover it. I also don't draw directly on canvas ever anymore. I stencil or project, do all my drawing on the iPad.
Oh, so use a
Stencil or
stencil.
project. Yeah, keep graphite on canvas minimum because I fucking hate it because it just smears and just gets everywhere, and then it takes like extra coats of paint.
Yeah, yeah. It
So
also
yeah,
speaks to I always a lot the first mistake I think a lot of artists make when they're trying to first learn is they draw too hard. Like they push down too hard on their first few drawings, and then they can't
yeah,
erase it. And they're stuck staring at their mistake the whole time. And that's what happens whenever I put pencil on canvas, where you're just like, that thing's
yeah,
gonna be there till the end of time. I'll be dead, and that pencil will still be on that freaking canvas, you know?
yeah. And I was just like starting to do it full time. Like I was just like, I gotta be more efficient. Like if I'm doing 4 paintings at once, I can't be drawing twice, once on the iPad, once on the
Mhm.
canvas. So stencil project, just do it like a tattoo.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you
So
also get a lot more, you get like a lot more precise that way too.
that's a good point. So when you say stencil and project, so you're projecting and you're painting based on the projection?
Yeah, so I'll draw on the iPad and then bring it up on a projector, project it, like just project on the canvas, get my lines, and then go from there.
All right. So how do you not bump into it and have it move all the time? And maybe I'm just thinking of me and my size 13 shoes, but is it like you have to keep it really perfectly lined up?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. You got to make sure that's very fixed. So either like on a wall or easel, that's not going to move around.
Yeah.
And also being pretty light on tracing the lines out as
Right.
well.
Now, just for all those people out there who say that your art or anyone's art is overpriced, we've just talked about 3 or 4 skills that you have to do in this that are friggin' tricky. Now, like even
Mhm.
myself as an artist for my entire life, it would take me a long time to be able to get anywhere near with the saw that you're talking about. The projection
Mhm.
stuff is tricky. There's in like just all of that stuff is why art costs money because it's like it's really really hard to do something like that, and it takes a lot of practice and a lot of learning. So, and a lot
Yeah,
of
for sure.
precision. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been a pretty like wing it kind of person. So if I want to learn something, I'll just fucking learn it. So, but
Yeah.
I'm also like blessed that I can do that. Like I know not everyone can.
Right, right. Yeah. I'm like
Sometimes
that
it takes.
too. And it works really well for stuff like art, but it works really poorly for stuff like skateboarding and shit like that. Like if it's something I'm gonna like break a bone, I'm like, I can't do it because I need to screw something up so many times before I learn it. I don't want to like
Yeah.
it's like if I know I'm gonna fall 100 times, then it might break my drawing arm. So
Oh
whatever.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Um
always injured.
yeah, I've
Yeah. I
still
go
made it to
entirely.
44 without breaking a bone. So knock on wood. Hopefully we'll keep that going.
Yeah. I only got a minor fracture on one, and then I'm pretty much break free. But I've done everything else. That's multiple surgeries.
Oh, that's no fun.
Yeah. I had back
Um,
surgery last year. It wasn't great.
oh, how you feeling now?
Pretty good. Yeah.
That's
Like
good.
it's gonna be a lifelong problem probably, but I mean it's manageable now, and I can still play sports and all that shit.
That's
So
good. That's good. Yeah. And now we get CBD and stuff to help, and that definitely helps some of my pain. So,
yeah.
so what all right, so what was like the I think I might have already asked this, but what pieces do you think really started get you said the Rick and Morty piece? And that actually made me think of something that I find with some of the mashups I do. There's a few different like when I do anything Wu-Tang related or Griselda related, and there's
Mhm.
like and then MF Doom related, those
Yeah.
strike really hard in a way that others don't. and you just
Oh yeah.
realize that there's a level of fandom there. I mean, do you have a few different fandoms in your head that you know are just going to be easier to sell than others, or is it,
Yeah.
you doing a lot of stuff on spec, or how are you kind of like managing your time to make sure you get the stuff that's most going to get out there?
I don't really want to shoot for pieces that are just like you're gonna sell quick. And then if I do have that subject, like Simpsons, for example, like Simpsons almost always sell.
Yeah.
But even if I'm doing that, I'm like, okay, I should do a Simpsons piece. I want to look at the lesser known characters almost a lot of the time, or like just, the not super popular. It's not like, just the generic
Right.
Bart, Lisa, Marge, Homer.
Right.
Which like they'll crush every time, but it's just
Yeah, but
for me,
like a
they're
stupid
so
sexy
done so many
Flanders, or
times.
like one of those is like really someone's really going to go nuts over that,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, 100%. Or like Millhouse, or like even
Yeah.
Millhouse is a little popular, but yeah, those side characters are really what like shape and make the show. Because
Yeah, oh,
I don't
yeah.
know, I love that, and and I'm a big fan of voice actors, so I like hearing like what voice
Me
actors,
too.
what else they can do. Yeah,
I'm obsessed with voice acting. It's
I know that's like my favorite thing in a new animated movie. I'm just like, who's that? I know that
yeah.
voice.
It's funny. So I have what I call almost facial blindness, because I've been watching How I Met Your Father for since it started, and I just realized that Hillary Duff is not Mandy Moore, and like my girlfriend's like, "What is wrong with you?" But like I can recognize anyone's voice, like every car commercial. I'm like John Cena, Matthew McConaughey. I'm like, that's
Yeah,
my thing, is voices. And
yeah,
like voice acting, to me, that's the ultimate gig. There's no better gig to have than voice acting. It's like, it's basically like what I'm doing now, except there's no camera. Like, and look at
yeah,
how I'm dressed when there is a camera. Imagine what I'd be wearing if
yeah,
there wasn't one. So
yeah. Voice acting's dope. I've always respected them a lot.
yeah, you got a good voice for it. You could do it, and you got some nice gravitas to your so
Yeah, I'd love to. I've always like done impressions too. Like impressions have been like my thing. And
what do you got, man? You can't say that
oh,
without delivering.
not off the top of my head, I can't do any, but
Really? You can't
yeah.
give me an impression? Why is it called a sandwich? Not made of sand. It's not made by a witch. See, I've
I
already
mean,
made
I could.
myself.
I mean, I could do Archer, but I mean,
Oh God, I love Archer. Yes.
Archer or Bob's Burgers.
Yeah, yeah. If you can do one, you can pretty much do the other.
Or I mean, or Kronk. Fuck, I haven't done Kronk in a while. Hey, Yzma. Yeah, no.
I have a friend of mine from college, who is the top Tom Cruise impersonator in like the
Oh,
world. He
dope.
won the Entertainment Tonight contest. He did it back in college back then, like, and it's
Cool.
just hilarious. And I don't know, I'm gonna try to get him on at some point. But impressions really fascinate me, because
You do.
I'm a rapper too, and I got to listen to my own voice a lot. So you definitely get to the point where I'm like, I wish my voice didn't slur a little bit like that, or I wish I didn't have like this quarter lisp that I have. And then
Oh yeah.
when you hear somebody that has such command over their voice, you're just like, holy shit, man! Like,
Yeah.
some impressive stuff, man. R.I.P.
Yeah.
Kevin
That's for
Conroy.
sure.
Still can't believe he's gone, man. The
Yeah.
Batman.
Yeah.
Cedric Bader's now. So for you, what were the characters that when you were a kid, like what got you into cartoons? Like what captured your imagination when you were younger?
Number one, first and foremost, is Mad Magazine.
Really?
Mad
That's
Magazine
I got a lot
shaped
of love
me.
for that.
Yeah, yeah. Mad Magazine shaped me. Getting my dad's old ones. I love like anything from the '60s to the '80s. It's
Yeah.
just I'm infatuated with the illustrators, the writers, everything. Don
Um,
Martin. Yeah, Don Martin was a huge one.
yeah.
The guy with big foldy feet and shit.
Yeah. I have
Yeah,
a Spy vs. Spy tattoo on my heel, because I think
fuck yeah.
that's like the fucking awesomest. I don't know. That shit never gets old. They put out this great anthology of that a few years ago, and I flipped through it so
Yeah,
many times.
Spy vs. Spy is awesome.
You
But
know
and
who
that's like
actually?
that's where I got my eye for parody and stuff too, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, is
that's a
all
good
that
point.
just silly goofiness, and I just always loved it.
You know who was the biggest influence on me was, I don't know if you remember from Mad Magazine, Sergio Aragonis, who did
Oh yeah.
Gru. Yeah, that dude. I have like 8 issues of Gru sitting right here. It's like this is what this and
Oh dope.
Garfield is what got me going. And he drew, and
Yeah.
Sergio's drawn in I think every issue of Mad, which is
Yeah. Oh yeah.
absolutely incredible. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. He's an absolute animal. And he
yeah,
writes his own stuff too, which is awesome.
yeah, yeah. You know the funny thing too that I realized that the guy who he works with, Mark Evanier, I think, who was an assistant to Jack Kirby for years,
Mhm.
also wrote a lot of Garfield and Friends. So like for me, the two things that I got brought up on were written by the same person, and I had no idea, which is
Yeah.
a weird connection. But
Yeah. Cool.
Sergio too. People don't know he's got to be. I don't want to overage him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was 80 or more at this point. He's
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
yeah.
Al Jaffe, I think, just died this year, not too long
Yes.
ago,
Yep.
and he was 100 and something, I think.
Yeah.
He made it. Yeah, he made it. He had a good life.
Yeah. Sergio is also known as being the fastest illustrator. He does a lot of crowd scenes, and he was, I don't know if they
Yeah.
ever really timed him, but that's what his nickname to fame is. And he's a kind of a
Oh, he's
personality. He looks a
all
little
those
like
guys are on a
Dolly.
different level,
Oh God, yeah. Yeah.
right? Like just crushing illustrations every month, like
Yeah.
hundreds. Like it's nuts. Yeah. And
I
I'm
had
just the slowest drawer in the world, so I'm like, oh.
Me too. I a few years ago I had Layla Del Duca, who was my mentor. She's an artist. She did God, I can't even think of the name of the comic right now. Shutter for Image, and she's done a bunch of stuff for DC and Marvel. And so I was training because I want to be a comic artist, but then I realized the reality of just how much that freaking hurts your hands. Like
Oh
it's
yeah, the
so
volume
hard to
they
have
have
to
to
draw
produce
that
is
much.
ridiculous.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's like we've all done paintings that we haven't, or like commissions we probably haven't wanted to do because someone wanted to give us a lot of money, and it's painful to do. But imagine doing that when your hand is also in pain and you're drawing like
Yeah.
some comic that only 8 people are going to read. It's a really tough go at it.
Yeah.
So the ones
Oh,
that are
for sure. I know.
successful,
And I was in the same boat where I was like, oh, I'd love to draw comics. And then I kind of got into it. I was like, no.
right. What I
Yeah.
immediately realized is that the best way to do comics is to get good at something else so that you can go to like Marvel or DC and be like, hey, I have a name. Want to let me do a guest cover or something like that? Like the back door it, I think is the way to do it. Cause I think it's like MTV where like they treat the people on their own network like dirt and they treat the celebrities on the outside like they're awesome. Like
Yeah.
I think that's the way you want to get in there. So
Yeah.
but I don't know. I'm giving career advice and something I don't know shit about. So hopefully somebody does that and it doesn't blow up in their face.
Yeah.
I don't know. So so yeah, so Mad Magazine. What it was the parodies you think in general? Like it was the humor, like it's you still read it
All of
today
it, the
or
parodies, the humor, the art, just the vibe they had for so long without having to run any ads in their magazines. All their
that's good.
ads were like their own parody magazine or own like mad parody ads. And like I don't think it was until the late 80s they started getting ads, started
Right.
putting ads in just because inevitably they have to keep up and pay for
Right.
shit.
Right. Because it wasn't long after that I guess it was in the 90s, but Marvel almost went out of business because they couldn't afford to because there was a paper shortage. And it was
Yeah.
like so like and I think it was from Canadian paper, like the margins started getting so much more ridiculous as time went on. And that's why, I
That
can't get
just
into digital comics. I like to hold it.
yeah. Yeah, and like that and like I mean just magazine sales like just on the slow decline since TV, right?
Yeah.
Like that was entertainment in the 60s and 70s was buying Mad Mags with your friends and reading them and shit, right? And then all of a sudden there's cartoons and all this bullshit on TV. You don't need that anymore necessarily.
Yeah, yeah. And now
Mm.
even TV, like I find myself watching less and less television just because I mean, I'm not even a video game player, but a lot of people I'm sure play video games way more than they watch TV. And it's like
Yeah.
I used to have the TV on regardless if I was watching TV, it was on whether I was paying attention to it or not. But now I only have it on when I actually want to watch something, which is I'm finding
Yeah.
is less and less. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I feel yeah. I just have I just have shows I look forward to and that's pretty much all I watch unless just Simpsons background.
Yeah, I would leave American Dad on. Like that's my
Yeah.
show. That's my go-to show. I've seen every episode like a million times. It's just
Yeah.
rolling through. There's like two that I skip because they make me sad, and then I just keep going past.
Yeah. Yeah. American Dad's good. I've
Yeah,
definitely run through it 3 or 4 times.
yeah. Have you ever done any American Dad pieces? Because I'm in my head right now thinking about what I want to eventually have you commission to for me, and I'm bouncing between the wrestler Danhausen and something related to American Dad.
Okay, yeah, I've done I think a couple small Roger pieces. And yeah, actually I've only ever done a few Rogers.
Wait, I might have you for a Danhausen face or maybe a Klaus or something because
Cool,
and
Klaus would be sweet.
yeah, that's one that I think that people love Klaus or hate him,
Yeah,
but
he's
love
great.
to hate. Yeah,
Yeah, he is a love to hate for sure.
yeah. Take that, Reddit.
Yeah.
Who's the worst character now?
Steve. Fuck, I hate
Oh,
Steve.
oh, really? I
Like
feel
I
I,
don't
I
hate him,
feel that way
it's
about
just
like Ted Mosby on like How I Met Your Mother. I'm like, I can't even watch the show. I hate you so much. But
yeah,
Steve, yeah,
it's Steve's voice. It's Steve's
Stoiv.
voice and mannerisms that get me. Just the crying and the yelling. I'm just like, shut the fuck up. But he is hilarious.
Yeah. You know what's a
He has
funny
an eccentric character.
Yeah, a funny story about that happened to me recently about that voice actor, and I can't think of his name right now, but the guy that does Steve. So I always had this is kind of a long way around to get back to this, but I have no memory, or for most of my life, I had no memory of ever believing in Santa Claus. Like I know I must have when I was a little kid, and
Yeah.
but like I just had no memory of it. And but so this my girlfriend and I were watching Christmas movies this year, and she dug up one that I realized that I had blacked out in my brain because it was the movie that told me that there was no Santa. It was like the
Oh yeah.
night they saved Christmas or something. It was a TV movie from like the 80s, and we watched it, and one of the main characters is Steve, is the guy who voices Steve as like a little kid, which I thought was pretty fucking weird. But yeah, so
Yeah.
I blacked out realizing Santa didn't exist for 30 years and had like a brain. My brain like did something very weird when that all came together during the watching of that movie.
Yeah, no doubt.
I could almost feel it like reprogramming. So
Yeah.
I don't know. So let's talk about your tattoo stuff because you mentioned that you're now apprenticing to become a tattoo artist,
Yeah.
which is awesome. Like I imagine your stuff probably translates really cool to tattoos, the bold colors, the strong lines. Like, I mean, it would look great on covering someone's arm. Like what's going on with that?
Yeah, I'm hoping to eventually move into that. Right now I'm starting with American traditional and neotrad. Just to learn the fundamentals of tattooing and what looks good, what's gonna hold, what's gonna last. And it's a really awesome and fun way to learn the culture too, and just like the history of it all. So learning traditional tattoos and traditional subject matter is kind of what I'm focusing on now. You know,
So what
skulls,
falls into
roses,
that? Okay, cool. I'm
skulls,
picturing like
roses,
anchors or something on like a sailor.
anchors as
Like,
well. Yeah, exactly. Same. Like all the classics you can think of, Sailor Jerry type stuff.
yeah.
And then eventually, moving into putting my spin on those and seeing just how I tattoo, because what I do now with the cartoon stuff, it will translate well to tattoo. I think it's just going to be different, right? Like there's illustrative lines are going to be done in two passes, and color packs are going to have to be planned out if there's hard shades and stuff like that. So
Good point. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I want to learn all the fundamentals and just how to pull lines, what looks good on the skin, how to work skin, all that kind of stuff first before I get into something a little more complex and specific.
Have you inked anybody yet? Have you actually?
I've tattooed myself 6, 7 times, just way back when, and not the proper way. But so I kind of have an idea of what not to do.
That's the way I learn.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
now
I drew all these on with a Sharpie before we started.
yeah, nice. Um, but yeah, I've been working at, like, my studio space has been in like a tattoo shop for the last 2 years. So I'm pretty much just getting
Osmosis.
grandfathered in by people who are like, why the fuck aren't you tattooing?
Yeah, yeah. People, I mean,
And I
that's a
just,
great way to make a living as an artist. It's probably one of the
yeah,
better ones if you can
and I
do it.
wanted to establish myself before going down that road. I wanted to have uh clients and collectors. So when I do start tattooing, it won't be such a grind to like build
Right.
that clientele base.
Yep. That's a good
So
point.
feel
Yeah.
like I've gotten, a little bit of clientele building and respect and establishment as an artist prior. So
Yeah.
hoping that'll just help me come out swinging in a way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't see a whole lot of tattoo artists that both tattoo and sell like the way that you do. So I mean,
Mhm.
that is a great way to cross market yourself. I'm sure there's people who've already bought your art that if they want it on their wall, like you probably put it on your body, on their body.
Oh,
So
for sure. Yeah, 100%. We have people who are saying they like, because I have collections across Canada. So there's people who want to travel to get tattooed. So that'll be awesome.
sweet. So what are how long of a process is that? Because obviously you're a very talented artist. You don't have to learn lines, stuff like that, all that. But what like if you were to just go about it the way that you think you should and taking the time, how long do you think you'd be before you'd probably be tattooing people?
That all depends on the mentor, I guess, on the mentor and your progress and whatever. So I'm supposed to be starting to tattoo like myself and like dudes around the shop or whatever, September 1st. So that's about 3 months of just apprenticeship. So sitting in on tattoos, doing setups for people, learning proper sanitation routines and methods, all that kind of stuff, how to dispose of sharps properly, and
So I definitely know how you can learn all of that stuff. But how do they mark growth in terms of this person's ready to draw something permanently without needing an eraser? Because it's like how do they know you're ready for that aspect of it?
Like trust, I guess. Trust and faith. Just being like, okay, he's putting out good work on paper for a long time and understands the subject matter.
So when you sit down to do one of these on paper, is it like a no erase rule, or like how do you sort of approach it in a way that you're learning how to tattoo versus just creating a final image where you're gonna move stuff around?
Well, I think that kind of comes down like to just the line work. Like when you're doing line work is just pulling lines point A to point B,
Mm-hmm.
matching up properly, shit like that, not just being efficient with it. Because when it comes to drawing and penciling, like I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's just like a race until it's perfect, right?
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
it's not like, once you got the stencil on, you know where your lines are going.
Yeah.
So it's not like that's going to vary it or you're going to have to do any like kind of freehand stuff other than maybe minor adjustments if you make a mistake, whatnot. So,
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
yeah.
What tattoos did you give yourself? You don't have to
Tattoos
show
on
them if
my
they're.
hand. Like these three on my hand here. I
Yeah,
did. And
it's probably
then,
very limited places you can actually tattoo yourself.
yeah, it's weird. And then I got like, I don't know, six on my leg that I've done as well that are garbage, but they're also good opportunities to practice when I do start hitting the machine again to fix
Yeah.
it up. And
Yeah, good opportunity for touch-ups.
yeah,
It's a good
exactly.
way to learn. You're very motivated
Yeah.
to do it. So, what was your first tattoo you ever got?
This one on my arm here, just my family name on my forearm.
Ah,
I
cool.
think, I was 15 when I got it.
Everybody, whenever I ask that question, people will always give me these ages that, like, I think about what I was doing when I was 15, and there was no realistic way. And I lived in a state it was illegal to get tattooed in Massachusetts up until the year 2000.
Oh, okay.
But even if it wasn't, I couldn't have. How do you get tattooed at 15?
You just gotta find someone who's willing, which is usually not the greatest.
I mean, it's like I remember. I think some stand-up comedian told a joke about, like, I'm gonna ask when I'm underage. We're asking somebody for to buy them booze. I'm gonna ask a guy on a date so that the guy doesn't want to look uncool in front of his date, so he'll definitely buy it. And it's like, who are these people that are like willing? Like, I would never do anything illegal for like a 15-year-old kid. Like,
Yeah, no,
I'm just
for
like,
sure.
you don't want to mess with kids, like no matter what. But like, there's always
Yeah,
some dude.
yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. Like, yeah, it's pretty frowned upon. I mean, unless you have like a lot of parental permission, but even still, like, I'm not really sure the parameters of that. It's kind of like, well, you either do, you don't. I think I'm not sure our shop tattoos anyone under 18,
Yeah.
even with parental consent.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't blame him. It's like I
Yeah.
didn't get a tattoo until I was like 38, and I'm kind of glad.
Right.
And now it's like I'm like I can go nuts because like I'm already halfway through my life. It's like
Yeah. And
only have to live with it
I'm
the
at the
back
point
half.
now where I'm like, I know my job. I don't care.
Yeah, you know what's
So
funny
I'll
too?
get my face tattooed.
Yeah, it looks cool. You know what's funny too is I've had people say, well, what if you get something and you just don't like it? And I have had this weird thing that's happened every time. I worry about that a little bit, but my brain just does this thing where as soon as it's on me, it's like it's always been there. Like my
Yeah.
brain just sort of accepts it as part of my body in a weird way that it's like it almost can't picture it. I can't really just, and I'm sure there's some people staring at something on their arm where they're going like, Jesus fucking Christ, I wish that thing wasn't on me. But I mean,
Yeah.
these just feel like a part of me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. I do
And
something where I get like an outline of a leaf every time I visit a new state, but unfortunately I started doing it right before COVID, so I only had 8 of them. So I
oh
got to
yeah.
plan some trips out of state to get some more. But
Cool. That's
yeah,
a cool project.
yeah, it gives me an excuse to get out of the house and actually go visit places in the world, which is not something I would probably do on my own. But you know,
Yeah, that's one thing I'm looking forward to tattooing is traveling,
so how?
conventions, and shit like
Oh,
that.
that's cool.
Yeah.
So actually, I want to ask you that. So you obviously I'm in Massachusetts. I know about your work. Like, did you start doing your stuff locally and then start an online presence? And if so, what was it like growing an online presence outside of people that kind of know from your own social media?
Slow at first, but I mean, certain subject matter like Rick and Morty kind of just popped into feeds and got me a bunch of followers, and then I pumped my followers up by doing giveaways for a while. like with people who sold glass or blue glass. So it was like collaborative giveaways. So you kind of get access to other people's followers.
So what's an effective giveaway strategy? Like what's if somebody wanted to do a giveaway, like myself, who has some Flash t-shirts that I made, they tie-dyed and screen printed, I wanted to give away. I was gonna ask Chat GPI this question later today, but I'll ask you.
Yeah.
What's a good strategy for doing a giveaway on Instagram that helps you get more followers?
Partner up with someone.
Okay. So
With
basically you do something together and yeah, walk me through it. I'm not gonna speculate. Go.
Yeah, so partner up with someone. I would say that A has like a decent amount of followers, and B, not the same market as you, but similar, like something that would kind of vibe with it, you know.
Yeah. Like not like direct
And
competitors, but like like a brother-sister relationship, like
yeah, because I mean, direct competitors, or if they're doing something that like is similar to you, you may already share a lot of the same followers, right?
that's a
So
good point too, yeah.
you want access to untapped followers, essentially, right? Who are going to
Yep.
be like, oh, I just discovered this and new. People are going to stick around and not just follow you just for the giveaway and then unfollow you, which
Yep.
happens a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
so
So something like that, partner up with people. Um, and like, yeah, make sure you have rules that, like and share rules. Be like, if you don't like and share it, like if you just drop a comment and don't like and share, like you ain't fucking entered.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you need it's like it's not a big ask, people. Like
No, it's not. But like also it's a huge ass asking people just to read because they don't.
right.
They
It
just
is
give away and they're like comments and then didn't read the rules and it's like you're not entered, sorry.
yeah, I know. And then they're mad at you for some reason. You're like,
Yeah,
oh my God.
not my
That's one
problem.
thing that I struggle with is and it
I make
sounds
it
like you're a
very
little
clear. I like post them twice. Where I
yeah,
post the rules twice and it's like you can't read that. It's on you, homeboy
yeah,
or
yeah.
girl
It
or
sounds like
them.
you're probably a little better at it than I am, but like I kind of hate dealing with the general public. Like I hate the idea that any random person might show up to want to buy something off of me because there's just some people that I don't know. I've been lucky with the clients that I have, but
Yeah.
you definitely run into some people out there with some whacked expectations,
Oh yeah, for sure. You just gotta learn to stand your ground.
Yeah, yeah,
Or just
yeah.
or and like right, like I've gotten pretty good at just acknowledging who's gonna work and who's not. Like just by the first few like lines of conversation, I'll just be like, this is a no for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you have money, but like I don't want to go through the headache.
Right. And that's a nice feeling. It's like
Yeah.
the not only the being paid full time to do the art you want to do, be able to say no to people and that's like a little closer to the
Well,
tip of
and
the
sometimes,
pyramid.
well, and sometimes it hurts too, right? Sometimes it hurts. It's like I'm gonna have to take a pay cut or not make money here just because I don't want the fucking headache and stress and
Yeah.
loss of energy.
But it is that too, because it's like I think there have been times in my life where I've thought when I was younger, as long as I'm drawing, as long as I'm drawing, I'll draw whatever for a living. And it's like you're like, as long as I get art doing some sort of drawing, I'll be happy. But you realize pretty quickly that's not really true. After I've drawn like my 50th dog of somebody who's passed away or like their baby, I'm just like, if I draw one more of these, a portrait for somebody, I'm gonna lose my freaking mind.
Oh yeah, I stopped doing pet portraits at a
Yeah.
certain point. I was like, nope, no more.
Yep.
This
It's
just doesn't bring me any joy.
right, right. It's just
Yeah,
like I love drawing like my own cats, but I'm done drawing other people, especially the recently deceased animals. I'm like, I don't need to take
yeah,
on this emotional toll. I want to draw a cartoon character that's gonna live forever.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are
Yeah.
you working on now besides the tattooing?
Mm, I have a Phantom of the Paradise piece I'm doing. If you ever seen that movie, it's a
I have
rock
not.
opera.
That
Oh,
sounds
I highly
interesting though.
recommend it. It's just a tradition. Me and my dad watch it every year. But it's like definitely one of my favorite movies. I'm doing a commission of it finally, which is awesome.
That's cool.
Um, I have a few tattoo style cutouts I'm working on. Two of them sold, and one of them kind of just on the back burner. And then just yeah, drawing a lot of flash.
Yeah. That's
Yep,
awesome, man.
yep.
For a
And then
moment I
just
thought you meant the character Flash, and I got excited. He's my favorite comic
oh
book.
no, just flash, tattoo flash. A lot of
Yeah,
skulls, a lot of roses.
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So what let me ask you too about do you ever sell in person? Have you ever done any pop-ups or any done any art shows or anything like that?
There's a few times I've gone vending, but I generally don't like doing it.
I hate it.
I do it at tattoo conventions now because I'm an apprentice at the booth, so I'll put like my prints and stickers out for sale. But paintings, like, no, like it's just at a place like that for pop-ups, like no one's coming there to drop 600 to $1,000
Right.
on a painting. So it's just a waste of time for me. I'd rather sell privately and be in the studio working.
Right. And
But
just too, I found with moving your paintings, it's inevitable something's going to get dented or broken. You may end up with like less than
yeah,
if you put a little hole in one of your pieces,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just too much of a hassle. A lot of times you have to pay for a booth, and it's just like I'd rather just keep everything at home and work.
Yeah, that's the dream too, is being able to do it all from your house. Yeah. Are
Yeah,
you able to do like, can you do your full setup? I struggled for years. I lived in apartments and I couldn't like spray paint because like I just didn't have no
yeah.
place to do it. Can you do everything in your home?
No, like that's why I got the
Oh
studio.
yeah, you said you have a studio that's next to a tattoo
Yeah, I
place.
do have a studio. Yeah. So I mean, we got a little bit of outdoor areas I can do that in. I don't do a whole lot of spray painting. If I do, it's just a lot of accent work, just like little tiny sprays and drips and
Yeah.
overspray for backgrounds, but or clear coats. But yeah, so I mean, I can do everything I need to in the studio. I can work from home as well, like just do my iPad shit, or just bring small paintings home, paint on the table. But
What was that like getting the keys to your studio for the first time?
yeah, it was sick. Yeah, it was nice to have a place to go because I worked out of my living room for years.
Which is a
Destroyed an apartment.
Yeah, there's something about working in the same place that you're supposed to be doing other things. Your world just sort of blends in a way that becomes uncomfortable. It feels like you're never
Yeah,
quite relaxing or you're never quite not working.
yeah, for sure. It's like I attribute it or relate it to like going to the gym. Like, having a home gym is like when you're going to a gym, like you're there to work out,
Right.
right? Where it's like we're at home and you're like, my TV's right there, my kitchen's right there, my work's right there. It's like there's too many options. Being
Yep.
at a
Yep.
studio is like, I'm here to work, I'm gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes especially too, I'm guessing you're probably like me, an artistic type. You kind of like, a little ADHD sort of, in that
So very,
realm. Yeah. It's like
yeah.
to put a little bit of discipline around your day isn't really a bad thing.
No, it's great. And the apprenticeship right now, I'm loving getting me back into routine and work ethic.
Yeah. So what is the best thing about your life as an artist? Like where do you find like your most gratitude from your art?
Time freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom
It's
of time to be able to just fucking go anywhere and do anything whenever I want if I have the money and not have a schedule. Be like, oh no, I actually got to work. She's
yeah.
like, actually, I don't. I can just do whatever and stay out there until I run out of money. But and then also like at vacations, right? I can still do my digital work on vacations or smaller projects.
Yeah.
So every time I do go on vacation or go somewhere, like I have that ability to keep making money while doing so. So
Yeah, it's a beautiful feeling. I talked to someone a few weeks ago who he's full-time artist. He draws on dollar bills. His name is Abtil. I don't know if you've seen his work, but he does like he does his really he does like similar to you. He has his really, really crisp lines and his really popping colors. I love it and I'm envious of
yeah.
it. But I mean, he was down in some islands, the Canary Islands off of Spain. He's like, I'm down here for a month just drawing on dollar bills, like, on
Cool.
vacation from the UK. And he's just like, that's the friggin' life, man. Like just
Yeah, that's dope.
yeah, I don't know. Where do you like to go when you travel?
Um, Generally just like BC. I'll go see my friends in BC,
Yeah.
which is nice because it's nicer weather, mountains,
Yeah, I've
all
been
that kind of
dying to
shit.
go there. I've only for
Yeah, it's
Canada, I've
super.
only ever been to Montreal and Toronto, and it's been like first time I went to Montreal, it was I was like 19 on New Year's Eve. Didn't realize quite how cold it was going to be, but it
Oh
was
yeah.
insane.
Yeah, it's nasty. Yeah, it gets nasty here too.
Yeah.
BC's awesome. It's like I don't know. I've never been to Colorado, but I've just heard it's just like it's very similar to Colorado,
Oh, I love Colorado. Spent a lot of time
right? Just
there.
a bunch of hippies and kind of progressive people, and
Yeah. Well, that's
yeah.
what's sort of funny about I'm not to like stereotypize your entire country, but the show Letterkenny?
Oh yeah,
Like the idea of progressives and hicks together, I think is so beautiful. And it's like you don't
yeah,
see that in like American culture. And I that's one of my favorite shows. I actually got
yeah.
Riley to do a little intro for me for an album that I have coming out next year where
Oh
he
cool.
calls me a clown. I'm very excited about that. And I actually
No,
have a
that's
song called The Wheel Snipe Sally coming out soon. But I love that's what I love so much about that show is that it's like fictionally located not that far from me, but we don't see progressive hicks at all in America. And I think it's that's a
yeah.
I don't know. So
You don't see them a lot here either. That's just TV.
Damn it.
I mean,
It's like,
there is some obviously, but it's funny because like Letterkenny is like a lot of like that's like prairie people. So like kind of where the province I'm from and surrounding.
yeah.
There's a lot of that farmers and
What are like misconceptions you think non-Canadians have about growing up in Canada?
I don't know. Pretty stereotypes are pretty bang on, honestly.
Nice people, Tim Hortons,
Yeah,
hosers, strange brew,
yeah, straight up, man. Yeah.
maple syrup. How are you doing? Are you anywhere near those wildfires?
No, we still get the smoke from them though. Yeah,
Yeah.
so like we'll have smoky ass days where it's just like okay, yeah.
Yeah, the air quality where I'm at now is like a 53, and I was thinking about going to the Bronx tomorrow to meet up with some friends, and it's going to be like 150 air quality down there. I'm like, that's not good. So,
No, yeah,
it's great to have to make decisions based on that, but that's the world that we're friggin' living in. So,
it is. Yep.
yeah. So what are some of your, I know we'll probably be wrapping up pretty soon, but what are some of your goals, like artistically? Where do you, I mean, obviously you're doing the tattoo stuff, but like, you
Yeah.
know, you got a lot more career left to fill, a lot more life left to live. What do you want to do with it?
I've never really been like a super forward future thinker. Like I've always just wanted to make a living doing this, and I'm happy doing that. And if I'm happy being comfortable making a living, and if like more comes, like that's awesome. But never ever wanted to be famous. It just seems like a fucking headache.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to make a comfortable living doing what I want,
Yeah.
and
You
just
want to be
not having
famous
to.
enough that people give you money, but not famous enough that it ruins your trip to the grocery store.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, just be comfortable. That's always been the goal. Just kind of be able to do what I want when I want
Yeah.
to a
So
degree.
what else you got on tap for today? You gonna be working on tattooing stuff or
No, I'm going to work at the weed store actually with my
oh,
buddy.
sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Sweet.
gotta leave pretty in like an hour. So
Sweet. What's an ounce go for up there now?
anywhere like on the legal store, anywhere from 60 to 200.
What a time to be. I know I said it before, but it's like it's because it's the same range here where it's like you can get like the super cheap ones sometimes, but like it's to get an ounce for like under $100, it's
I know it's
mind bending.
wild.
It's
I
like
know it's wild.
way better than any stuff I got back in the day too. So
Yeah,
it's
like
pretty
it was like
insane.
$200 an ounce, like solid when I was in
Yeah,
high school, I remember.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, even
Yeah.
up there too, because I mean, I'm sure that's a big, I'm sure that's always been a big weed area, right? Up in where you're from.
Yeah, yeah, it's been pretty big. BC
Yeah,
is more like the land of opportunity for weed, but now that it's everywhere, it's everywhere.
yeah, yeah. You're full country wide legalization, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we still don't even have that. Yeah, we still got tons of states that like you can still get
Yeah.
arrested, and it's in case you've noticed, there are some problems with my country. I'm not going to
Yeah.
get into them now, but we're struggling through some things. So check back in with us in a couple of years and see how we're doing.
Yeah,
Um,
no doubt.
if we're still here. So
Yeah.
that's all
Still
right.
would.
Yeah. And one thing too, do you make music? Because I don't think there's that many people with your exact name out there. And I found a SoundCloud page, but I wasn't sure if that was you or not.
No, I don't. I used to love playing guitar and doing music. High school, that was my artistic outlet.
Yeah. What type of stuff do you to play?
I really like playing blues, a lot of stoner rock, like stoner metal, doom metal.
Do you like Uncle
Um,
Acid and the Deadbeats?
I haven't listened to a whole lot, but they're pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I love them. They're one of my favorites. That's the
Yeah.
first thing I think of. I think of that stuff. I saw them in Colorado a few years ago, and I was right up front, and I was, God
So
damn, I got to leave the house again sometime soon. But
yeah,
um,
I know studio's good for that.
yeah. So, all right, man. Anything else you want to touch on while we're here?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything, man. Yeah.
Cool, man. It's been a total pleasure. I'm gonna put
Absolutely.
some of your pictures up during this, and I'll have your social media stuff out. And anybody who wants to reach out to you, I mean, how are you looking? You're taking commissions now? I mean, this is gonna be September, so it's tough to tell. But
Commissions, yeah, commissions are pretty much closed now just because I have to wrap everything up before I start tattooing and kind of
okay.
transition into that. So I've got a few big projects coming up to kind of finish me out. So
All right, well, follow him now so you know when commissions start going live, when he starts doing tattooing. And man, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. You're so
yeah, dude,
friggin' talented, and it's
thanks, brother.
I hope you just keep getting better and blowing up and all that great shit. So man,
That's the
awesome.
plan.
Cool, man. It's been a pleasure.
Right on, brother.